Today I will tell you the story about the hottest girl in my high school. She was a few grades older than me. Now this girl was beautiful. She was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Double D, round butt, great body and that perfect proportion of being curvy but not being fat. Think of the body of a prime Pamela Anderson, enough said. And her face, whoa, she had the face of an angel, a total 10 out of 10 face, just absolutely beautiful, almost ethereal. Now this girl was well known to be promiscuous in my high school. She'd been passed around by a lot of the jocks. And everyone seemed to define her based on her beauty. No one seemed to see her in any other way beyond as a sex object, and just intuitively it seemed as though to me that's all she saw herself as well. As beautiful as she was, she always had this look of insecurity on her face, and at the time, I didn't know why. Fast forward a few years when she was out of high school, and she must have been like around 21 or so at this time. A classmate said he heard she had an STD of some sort and sent me a link to a video with her, and in it was porn, and there she was. Now I remember her when I was like a 15-year-old kid and she was like this 18-year-old goddess. But just around 3 years later in that video it looked like she'd aged like 10 to 15 years. She lost weight for sure, and just looking at her figure and her face, the dark circles under her eyes, all that shit, you could tell that she was using drugs. Don't get me wrong, she was still attractive, she was still above average, but she went from being like a legit 10 to maybe a 6.5 at best in only a couple of years. I could tell just by looking at her face and the video that she was having a bit of a rough time in life, to put it mildly, and I felt compassion for the situation she found herself in. It's been well over 10 years now since I saw that video, and there are people out there that still think I'm a teenager. I've aged that well, barely a day. While I'd be surprised if she were any higher than a 5 now. Now what's the point of the story? The point is that really beautiful women, they get defined by their sexuality, they get defined by their beauty, and if you take that away from them they have nothing left, like nothing at all, and they know this, and it scares the hell out of them. This is to give you guys some insight into women. Just as another example, do you know what field has the most beautiful women? I read a study on this once, and the field that has the most beautiful women is actually the escort business. Yet it's a bit surprising, isn't it? You think the most beautiful women were going to modeling or be actresses, right? But it's actually escorting, and from interviews gathered from all these escorts, the number one reason why they went into it is because they are so beautiful that that's all people define them as, beautiful sex objects, and since women are impressionable, that's all they saw themselves as. Even genetically, that really may be all women like that have to offer. After all, her female ancestors were probably good looking for the most part as well, and they must have relied on that too, thus maybe her line never developed other capacities, like intelligence, creativity, etc. With looks like hers, they may never have had to, they just had everything given to them. People like that, and especially women like that, they have everything handed to them on a silver platter right from the get-go. Because she has everything handed to her on a silver platter from men and from people and society in general, she never actually develops her talents, she never even finds out if she has any, she just goes about existing. I know now why she was insecure. She was insecure because her looks were all she had to offer the world, and she knew it, and women know this better than we do, that looks fade, and looks fade very fast for women. This scared her, don't get me wrong, it scares everyone to get old, but it scares women especially. That's why so many of them do that self-destructive partying and drugs lifestyle in the teens and early 20s, why they're clubbing and sleeping around. It's to distract themselves from the inevitable. A woman like that, her looks give her incredible power for a short time, and what happens to people who have great power? They become scared of losing that power. Just like she inevitably did. The ironic thing is that through drugs and rampant promiscuity, i.e. that whole party, bar scene lifestyle, she sped up the process a lot faster than it would have happened otherwise. So in other words, her own insecurities and the vices that resulted from that wound up hastening the very events that she was most scared of, aging and losing her beauty, losing her power. Be wary of these women as well. They may look good for a minute, but they will lose their looks almost overnight. A man can actually live that lifestyle and still not age rapidly, if he has good genes, but a woman's body just can't take the abuse. There's a reason why the jocks at my school saw through her and pumped and dumped. Strong men won't let themselves be blinded by beauty, they knew she was promiscuous, so they didn't take her seriously as anything but a one-night stand. In my estimation, this was making her sad as well. Feminism had told her this was okay, and due to her looks she must have figured they'd just accept her behavior, but when they didn't, it made her question her own viability as a person and a mate. Ultimately that's how women view themselves, as a mate. They have done this since they were kids. If good men don't see her as wife material, that will hurt her and make her question everything about her whole reality. You see, there's a great advantage to not having everything handed to you on a silver platter. It makes you strong, it makes you self-sufficient, you learn to take care of yourself. So next time you see these beautiful women in the club or school or wherever and you think that they have it so great, just remember that time and their privilege will turn a lot of their stories into a tragedy, and sometimes having to forge your own path and having nothing handed to you is the best blessing a person can get. And sometimes having everything handed to you can be the worst curse a person can receive. If you like my content, please subscribe and bang the bell for notifications on new videos.